Antarctica, the world's southernmost and iciest continent, holds abundance of hidden minerals and energy sources.
A team of British scientists returned from the expedition in the southern ocean of Antarctica. It is crucial for shaping international climate change policy.
Antarctica is a land full of secrets, and it's much bigger than you'd think. Even though it looks like just a small blob at the bottom of maps, it's actually the fifth largest continent, nearly as big as South America. Imagine it covering the whole United States, or stretching across Europe from Norway to Iraq. What terrifying secrets are frozen under its massive ice? Let's expose what's hidden beneath the mysterious ice of Antarctica, exploring Earth's final frontier. Antarctica is massive, so much so that if you put Antarctica on top of North America, you would see that it's much larger than the 48 contiguous US states combined. If you placed it over Europe, it would stretch from Norway and Finland in the north, down to Iran and Iraq in the southeast, and beyond Ireland into the mid-Atlantic in the west. It's a huge landmass, yet hardly anyone lives there permanently. The number of people in Antarctica changes with the seasons, from about 4,000 in the warmer months to only around 1,000 during the harsh winters. In winter, the continent is in constant darkness, and temperatures can drop below minus 34 degrees Celsius. The extreme weather and its remote location keep the population low. The nearest significant settlement is in southern Argentina, more than 1,000 kilometers from the tip of the Antarctic Peninsula. But the distance isn't the only challenge. The infamous Drake Passage separates this land from human reach. Known for some of the roughest and most dangerous waters in the world, this passage is where the Southern and Pacific Oceans meet the Atlantic without any land to slow them down. This allows winds and ocean currents to gain speed and power, creating huge waves that can reach up to 20 meters during storms. This isolation might explain why Antarctica wasn't seen by humans until the 19th century, when a Russian expedition first recorded its existence in 1820. Even now, over 200 years later, much about this icy land remains unknown, especially what's beneath its thick ice sheet. The Antarctic ice sheet covers more than 98% of the continent, leaving only small patches of bare land. This ice is, on average, over 2 kilometers thick, and in some places it's nearly 5 kilometers thick. Imagine stacking 6 of the world's tallest buildings, the Burj Khalifas, on top of each other. This vast amount of ice holds 61% of Earth's fresh water. If it melted, sea levels would rise by about 60 meters, flooding coastal areas worldwide, including places like Florida and significant parts of the US Gulf and East Coasts. But this isn't the worst part. Antarctica isn't just a frozen wasteland. It's crucial for understanding our global climate. It holds secrets deep within its ice about Earth's past climate and potential future changes. Its harsh climate and challenging geography continue to test those who go there, showcasing the extreme nature of Earth's most isolated continent. Today, we know more about the surface of distant planets like Mars than we do about what's beneath the ice of Antarctica. Instead of drilling through the thick layers of ice, scientists mainly use planes to look below. They send radio waves into the ice and study how these waves bounce back, a method called radio echo sounding. Antarctica is huge, even bigger than Europe. Covering the whole area with this method is extremely expensive and time-consuming. So far, we've only mapped a small part of it, leaving over 90% unexplored. From what we've found, Antarctica isn't just one solid landmass as it appears from above. If all the ice melted, we'd see that the Antarctic Peninsula would turn into a group of mountainous islands called Lesser Antarctica. The larger part, Greater Antarctica, would be about the size of Australia. Let's uncover more about Antarctica's icy secrets. Exploring Antarctica's volcanic mysteries. These two regions are quite different. Greater Antarctica, or the eastern part, has old igneous and metamorphic rocks. On the other hand, Lesser Antarctica is younger, with sedimentary and volcanic rocks. This area is part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, known for its many volcanoes and tectonic faults around the Pacific Ocean. One standout feature is Mount Erebus, the highest active volcano in Antarctica and the southernmost active volcano on Earth. It has a constantly active lava lake at its summit, first seen in the 1970s. The area around Mount Erebus is extremely cold, with average temperatures around -7 degrees Celsius and winter lows below -60 degrees Celsius, cold enough to freeze exposed skin in minutes. Under Mount Erebus, there's a hidden world of subvolcanic ice caves. These caves can be as warm as 25 degrees Celsius, a big difference from the freezing air above. These caves were discovered after years of geological activity, and scientists think they might host unknown forms of life. In 2017, researchers from the Australian National University explored these caves and speculated about the unique ecosystems that could exist in these warm, isolated environments. This shows that Antarctica is much more dynamic and complex than just a frozen wasteland. Researchers took a soil sample from a cave under Mount Erebus. When they looked at the soil, they found DNA from algae and mosses. Interestingly, they also found DNA from small animals that might live in these hidden sub-Antarctic environments. Most of the DNA matched known species, but some were new and resembled creatures like shrimp, centipedes, or spiders. This means there might be unknown species in the warm caves under Mount Erebus. These findings suggest that there could be similar ecosystems under the ice of Antarctica, kept warm by the heat from 15 other volcanoes across the continent. Each site might have its unique warm ecosystem, but they are still mostly unexplored. Recent aerial surveys using special sound techniques have revealed a vast landscape under Antarctica's ice, including valleys, riverbeds, and hills. One of the most surprising discoveries made in 2019 is a canyon under the Denman Glacier. This canyon is the deepest on Earth's land, going over 3.5 kilometers below sea level. This depth is similar to the average depth of the Atlantic Ocean and about half the height of Mount Everest. The importance of this canyon is huge because it is almost 8.5 times deeper than the shoreline around the Dead Sea, the lowest land on Earth. Finding such a deep canyon under ice shows how many secrets Antarctica holds, hidden by its thick ice. In 1958, a team from the Soviet Union made an incredible find. They discovered a giant mountain range hidden under the ice in Antarctica. They called it the Gamburtsev mountain range, named after a Russian scientist named Grigory Gamburtsev. These mountains stretch for about 745 miles and can be as tall as 8,858 feet, which is pretty close to how tall the Alps are. They are covered by more than 1,968 feet of ice and snow, so you can't see them from the top. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, researchers found a large gravity anomaly in East Antarctica, where the gravitational pull was unexpectedly weak. This anomaly covers a large area and goes down about 848 meters. After many years of guessing, a team from Ohio State University used data from NASA and the German Aerospace Center in 2006 to suggest that this anomaly might be due to a giant, ancient meteorite crater, 480 kilometers wide, buried deep under the ice. But this wasn't the most surprising part. Next, we explore the hidden depths and ancient impacts beneath the ice, discovering Earth's hidden wound. These discoveries show the complex and hidden dynamics of Antarctica, a continent with many geological wonders under its ice sheets. Each finding gives us a peek into the unknown natural history and the possibility of unknown life forms living in extreme hidden environments. In a remote and isolated part of Antarctica, hidden beneath kilometers of thick ice, a team of scientists has found hints of a huge event. These researchers have explored this icy wilderness, but haven't yet taken samples from deep below the ice to confirm their suspicions about a possible asteroid impact. They think a massive asteroid might have hit this area, possibly creating the largest impact crater ever found on Earth. For now, this remains an unconfirmed but convincing theory. If proven, The crater would be much larger than the Chicxulub crater in Mexico, which is linked to the asteroid believed to have ended the age of the dinosaurs. The asteroid responsible for the Antarctic crater would have been about 40 to 50 kilometers wide, much bigger and more destructive than the dinosaur-killing asteroid. To give you an idea, this massive rock would stretch from Central Park in New York City to Connecticut. Over millions of years, natural processes like erosion gradually hide such impact sites. Researchers from Ohio State University who found the hidden structure under the Antarctic ice sheet estimate the impact happened between 100 and 500 million years ago. This timing is interesting because it matches the period when Antarctica and Australia were splitting from the ancient supercontinent Gondwana. This same era lines up with the Permian-Triassic extinction event, known as the Great Dying, the most severe extinction event in Earth's history. This catastrophic event wiped out a large portion of all life forms at the time, including 57% of biological families and over 70% of land vertebrates. We still don't know exactly what caused this mass extinction, but the idea that an asteroid impact in Antarctica was involved is a strong possibility. But this isn't the worst part. The possible impact site, if confirmed, could also explain the breakup of Gondwana itself, suggesting that the force of the impact might have significantly weakened the Earth's crust, affecting the tectonic shifts that led to the continents we have today. Researchers have found about 675 subglacial lakes beneath Antarctica's vast ice sheet, with Lake Vostok being the largest discovered so far. These lakes, some buried deeper than 3 kilometers under the ice, were first identified in the 1990s. Lake Vostok, discovered by Russian scientists, was hidden from the world until its reveal in the journal Nature in 1996. This lake holds more water than Lake Ontario, making it the 6th largest lake in the world by volume, a significant find in such a harsh environment. And that's not the only surprising thing. The discovery of these lakes shows just how much we still have to learn about our planet. They remind us that even in the most extreme and remote places, there are still secrets waiting to be uncovered. In Michigan, USA, we found something amazing the same year Tiger Woods started his professional golf career. At Lake Vostok, there's a special situation where the water stays liquid, even though it's very cold, with temperatures around -3 degrees Celsius, 27 degrees Fahrenheit. This happens because of heat coming from below the lake and the heavy pressure from the thick ice above. The ice not only keeps the lake warm, but also lowers the freezing point, so the water doesn't freeze. Incredibly, life thrives in this cold environment. Species like Antarctic krill, icefish, Arctic cod, and some sea stars, sea urchins, and mollusks live in these icy waters. This makes us wonder what other unknown life forms might exist in the hidden depths of Lake Vostok and other buried lakes in Antarctica. These lakes, covered by ice, are a fascinating area to study. Lake Vostok is especially interesting because it has been cut off from the outside world by ice for over 15 million years. This means any life there might be very different from life anywhere else on Earth. Join us as we dive deeper into Antarctica's mysterious frozen world, Antarctica's secret ecosystems and hidden treasures. In 2012, Russian scientists made a big discovery by drilling through almost 4 kilometers of ice to reach the lake and get water samples. But their first try was criticized because the samples were contaminated with kerosene and outside bacteria. Despite this, they found 255 known bacteria and 1 possible new species. This gives hope for finding unique life forms in these extreme conditions. But this wasn't the worst part. In 2015, the Russians drilled another hole with better cleanliness and got another liter of water from the lake. However, they haven't shared what they found, leaving many questions about what they discovered. Most scientists think that if there is life in Lake Vostok, it will mostly be simple organisms like bacteria. While this might not sound exciting, it could help us understand the possibility of life on other planets, like the icy moons of Jupiter and Saturn, including Europa and Enceladus. In 2020, researchers Kobai Gura and Scott Rogers studied the ice over Lake Vostok instead of its water. They found new bacteria and an RNA sequence similar to a fish from the Antarctic coast. This hints that more complex organisms might live in Lake Vostok. Imagine sending a camera-equipped drone into the lake to explore its hidden ecosystem. It could reveal more about life in one of the most extreme places on Earth. In late December 2021, a group of New Zealand scientists made a surprising discovery. They melted a small hole through a glacier in West Antarctica, right above the Canby Stream. Their instruments suggested there might be a large pool of liquid water about 500 meters below the ice, shaped over thousands of years by a small river running under the glacier. When they lowered a camera into this hole, the view was amazing. They saw a cavern full of liquid water, bustling with life. Hundreds of animals were thriving in this isolated environment, completely cut off from the outside world. These creatures, seen as blurry orange spots at first, were later identified as shrimp-like marine crustaceans called amphipods. This was a huge discovery because this cavern, buried half a kilometer under the ice and far from any light source, was full of complex organisms living in complete darkness. This led to many questions about what other forms of life might be hiding in places like Lake Vostok or other lakes beneath Antarctica's vast ice sheets. Antarctica's West Antarctic ice sheet is as big as Mexico, yet we've only explored a tiny part of it. We've drilled a few dozen boreholes, each exposing only a small area about the size of a basketball court. What lies beyond these holes remains largely unexplored and could hold groundbreaking discoveries. Beneath the ice, there might also be a wealth of natural resources. For years, scientists have thought that large reserves of oil, gas, and coal could be buried under the ice. These are remnants from millions of years ago when Antarctica was unfrozen and full of life. Over time, these ancient materials transformed into hydrocarbons, like petroleum. Just a few months ago, in early 2024, another startling revelation came to light. A Russian research vessel, working in the Weddell Sea, found what might be one of the largest oil fields ever discovered. It contains an estimated 511 billion barrels of oil. This amount is double that of Saudi Arabia's reserves and 10 times what the North Sea has produced over the past 50 years. Now, let's see how Antarctica's past shapes its future stakes. Antarctica's age of claims. Nations on ice. In the mid-20th century, Antarctica, a huge icy land at the bottom of the world, was open to anyone brave enough to settle or use its resources. But its distance and harsh conditions scared most people away. By the late 1950s, 7 countries, including New Zealand, Australia, France, and Norway, claimed parts of this frozen land. New Zealand and Australia claimed parts connected to their territories. France claimed areas near its islands, and Norway claimed areas related to Bouvet Island. The claims of the United Kingdom, Argentina, and Chile were especially messy. The UK based its claims on nearby islands like the Falklands, South Georgia, and the South Sandwich Islands. Argentina's claims were similar to those of the UK, including the Falklands and those same islands, due to their closeness to the mainland. Chile's claims were based on how close their mainland was to Antarctica. These claims caused tensions that almost led to conflict, especially with the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union in the background. But in 1959, to stop any fighting and keep the continent peaceful, 12 countries signed the Antarctic Treaty. This important agreement stopped all military activity, banned nuclear tests and waste dumping, and made Antarctica a place for science. The treaty, a big peacekeeping effort during the Cold War, also set up a system to inspect any nation's facilities to make sure everyone followed the rules. Claims made before the treaty were put on hold, making them legally meaningless, and no new claims could be made by those who signed. This included the US and later Russia, though they could still make claims in the future. The treaty allowed any country to do scientific research in Antarctica, letting them set up research stations regardless of past claims. As of 2024, Antarctica has over 55 research stations from countries all over the world, showing how nations can work together in one of the toughest places on Earth. The US runs McMurdo Station, the biggest on the continent, which can support up to 1,500 people in the summer. Argentina and Chile, the countries closest to Antarctica, went even further by setting up permanent civilian settlements, making their presence and claims stronger. Argentina's Esperanza Base and Chile's Villa Las Estrellas host not only military and scientific people, but also families and kids, bringing a bit of normal life to this remote place. But this wasn't the most surprising part. In the 1970s and 80s, both Argentina and Chile sent pregnant women to their bases so they could have babies there, strengthening their claims with native-born citizens. The first baby born in Antarctica was Emilio Marcos Palma in 1978, a moment celebrated by Argentina and followed by more births from both countries. Meanwhile, the fights over the Falkland Islands and the nearby South Georgia and South Sandwich Islands between Argentina and the UK are much more intense than those over Antarctica. The Falklands have about 3,600 British citizens living there, making these disputes more serious and immediate than the almost empty icy continent. For almost 200 years, the Falkland Islands, along with South Georgia and the South Sandwich Islands, have been controlled by the British. This started back in the 1830s. However, Argentina has always claimed these islands, saying they have historical and geographical ties to them. The tension between the two countries reached a peak in 1982 when Argentina suddenly invaded the Falklands. This started a fierce 10-week war with the UK, resulting in nearly 1,000 soldiers dying and over 2,000 getting injured. Both sides lost many ships. Despite Argentina's strong move, they were eventually defeated by the British forces. Since then, the Falklands have stayed under British control, though the argument over the islands has become less of a hot topic in international politics. It's still not settled. Recently, a potential game changer has appeared. There's an estimated 511 billion barrels of oil in the Antarctic, between the claims of the UK and Argentina. If accessed, this oil could be worth around $44 trillion, nearly doubling the GDP of the United States. This discovery has brought the Falkland dispute back into the spotlight, especially with Brent crude oil priced at $86.40 per barrel. The control of this Antarctic oil field could make a country or company a leading oil power, even surpassing Saudi Arabia, and transform their economy. But there's a problem. The Antarctic Treaty System currently blocks resource extraction below the 60 degrees latitude. However, this treaty will be reviewed in 2048, and any country that signed it can withdraw, opening up the chance for resource exploitation. But this wasn't the worst part. As the ice in the Weddell Sea melts due to climate change, accessing the oil becomes easier, though still tough. The remote location, far from any major civilization like Argentina or South Africa, along with icebergs and ice flows, makes drilling and extraction very dangerous and expensive. Right now, the economic factors make exploitation unappealing, but this could change by 2048. If Argentina, which has had economic struggles, can stabilize and grow its economy in the coming decades, it might push its claim over the Falklands again. This potential wealth under the ice could reignite the long-standing dispute with the UK, significantly changing the geopolitical landscape. Do you think the events described could truly happen? Share your views. If you found this content thought-provoking, hit like, leave your thoughts below, and subscribe for more.